Hey guys, what's up? I know it's been a really long time since I've uploaded a video, especially a tutorial, but I feel like a lot of you guys have been waiting on this one, the Titan's Red Hood armor. This armor is a lot different than a lot of my previous builds. There's new techniques in this one, and I hope you guys learned something from this. Let's get to it. All right, here we're gonna start out with the cutting up chest piece. What I've done with this is when I traced out the templates and I flipped it over, I made sure I just lined up them at the center, and I'm gonna cut them out as one piece. And then eventually I'm just gonna do a V-groove undercut here down the center, so that way it gives the chest some form. These bottom lines here, all along from this point all the way to this point, is going to be a outward angle cut, which means you'll hold your blade tilted out like this. And what that's going to do is that'll give a little more dimension when you glue the piece that connects to the bottom of this. Now that I have the chest cut out, you can still see it's one piece, and this bottom angle here is cut. And I'm going to do a V-groove cut here down the center. And you want to make it big enough that it will be noticeable under the fabric, but not so deep that you go all the way through. Just like that. That's kind of hard to see on white, but now I'm going to do the same thing for these lines here. And on the reference images, he has like a red string that sets in right here. So you want to make these deep enough that the fabric can go into, plus the red string to go inside of it as well. All right, now all of the V-grooves are cut. Now typically the V-grooves are undercuts made on the back of foam to give, a heel or a, seamless bend. But in this case, it's all on the front, and no need to put contact cement in that to bend it over or anything. One thing I did forget to mention is the chest piece. You'll want to use either 8mm or 10mm, something thicker. And then same thing for the piece we're about to cut out next. All right, now these are the pieces that go under the chest. I've marked a C for the center, and this will glue right underneath. You line up, there's no hash marks on this, so you'll just line up the very end, and then of course you will already have these all heat formed and everything, but as you glue it and you'll curve it, and then it just glues right up there over the top. You do that for both sides. And there is this little bitty triangle piece on the template. It's just half of it, and you'll just line up in the center and flip it just like you did on the chest. We'll cut this out 6mm foam or 5, whichever you have on hand. And this piece is going to go just right here at the bottom of in between the chest piece. And of course, all this will be heat formed and have a little bit of curvature to it. And you'll notice on a couple of the pieces, there is a gap of a line, and that is where you'll place the glue, because that's an overlap piece. And now this one is for the top of the chest, and so it basically just, you line up the shape of it with the chest, and it'll just basically sit right there, and there's two of those. All right, and here we have all of the pieces already cut out. There's essentially two of almost every piece, because there's the base piece and then there's the piece that goes on top that'll be wrapped in fabric. All of the pieces that go on top and will be wrapped in fabric, you'll cut with an outward angle cut to give it a bevel on all the sides. And then once you cut all of those pieces, you're ready to start heat forming and gluing it all together. In which I'm going to start with the chest and this little triangle piece. Also, on a side note, to keep all my pieces organized so I don't accidentally misplace them or glue them in the wrong spot, I labeled the add pieces 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I always put a T and a C to signify top center. So that way I know that this piece, that this sets like this is the top, and this edge goes towards the center. And then I numbered the corresponding piece on the base. I've done that for each one, and it just helps keep everything organized. Something else to notate is whenever you cut your top layer pieces out of the 6mm foam, or 5, whichever you have on hand, which I also used 5mm for the base. I think 4mm would probably work best for the base pieces. But what you're gonna get is your armor pieces are going to be slightly bigger than your base pieces, which that's fine. It just helps give it a little more dimension. All right, once you got it all curved, I went ahead and attached the, I went ahead and attached this one. It doesn't take very much glue. I mean, you're just putting it along the edge and along the top side of this edge, back side of this edge. And I start right here at the back side, what I'm calling the back side. And see if I can get it where you guys can see that. Really, the only mark that you line up is the curve. When you get to that, just make sure you bend this upwards. And the end of that should line right up, should butt right up with that triangle piece. And then you just push down the edges for the good fit. And that's the chest piece right there. Plain and simple. Now this piece will be wrapped in the fabric, which you guys will see later on, along with each individual ab piece after we heat and shape them, of course. But yeah. All right, so here now everything is heat formed and ready for the next step. See, all these pieces are going to be wrapped in fabric, and if they're wrapped in fabric, we won't be able to see what we've written on the front of them. So in order to fix that, so you still don't lose track of your pieces, just gonna turn it over and write the number and basically the same thing, rule on top and center. Just so that way you know that you flip it over, you can glue it down and keep track of what's what. And you just do that to all of your pieces, especially the ones that you think that potentially you can get confused. And after that, we'll be wrapped in some armor and fabric. Now, I know this is not the most accurate fabric to the actual show, but it is as close as I could get, and it is a 4-way stretch fabric, black on one side and of course metallic on the other. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to lay this out shiny side down, and then lay our pieces face down on the back side of it and trace out an area bigger than the actual armor piece. Cut that out, and then we're just going to spray glue it down. And something that we want to keep mindful of is the direction in which the pattern goes. And which I don't know if you can tell, but I actually have this at an angle. So the pattern will go across the pieces at an angle, similar to what it does in the actual armor that Red Hood wears in the series. And I want them all to have the same angle on them. So I'm setting up my armor pieces how they will sit once they're all put together. Basically just all facing the same direction. And then I've just got a piece of chalk, and I'm gonna kind of just roughly outline each piece. And then of course I'm gonna be leaving extra room to wrap around to be able to glue. And then once you do that, we'll get it all cut out and spray glue it down. Now I don't know if you can tell about how far I've gotten around each piece, but I've gone, I would say at least an inch around each armor piece, and actually more than enough to fold over and glue on the backside. And you will also be trimming and cutting away some excess little bits away from it to make it more form-fitting. But now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down into a more manageable size. All right, I've got all the fabric pieces cut out to approximately the right size. I'm gonna step out to the garage and spray this side spray adhesive, and then spray this, put it on there, and fold it over. All right, so this is the spray adhesive that I am using. As far as I know, it's the strongest stuff you can get, and it is awesome. You just spray both surfaces with the spray, let it set for about a minute or so. And then once it's pretty much dried, you take this. I'm just flipping over the armor piece on top of the fabric, pushing it down. It's really hard to do this one-handed. And just pushing it across the, over the edges there. Once you get the edges pushed down, you're left with this, and then you just set that back down and you hit it with the spray adhesive again and fold it over and then trim off the excess fabric. And then once this dries to a tack, you just fold it over. And just like that, you've got your fabric wrapped armor piece. Now there will be these fabric offshoots that you just gotta trim up before you glue it onto the base. But that's it. Right, using Duplicolor Metal Cast Red, masking tape for the emblem, and spray. All right, so the fabric is just a little bit too shiny to be accurate. So we're just gonna get some regular black spray paint and let me go over the whole thing to kind of dull it down a little bit, make it a little bit more of a darker color. You don't want to go too dark. You want to give it a good even coating, kind of knock down that shine a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to add some details to the ad piece, and it's just a couple of little silver squares. I'm using 2mm foam for this, and I just spray paint them silver. They're about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch roughly. Sorry, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. And it's just gonna go right here on the little corner. I do not have templates for these, so it's just kind of use some of your scrap foam that you've got to cut these out. And just a little dab of super glue on the back. And placing them down. I place these here at the bottom of this, so it kind of makes a nice consistent line. I'm kind of wipe off the excess super glue. And as you can tell, the this piece is actually lower than what it was when I initially glued it on, because I glued it too high. So when you go to glue on the abs, start with the number 4, this one right here, and then glue on this one, so that way you have adequate spacing. And now there are these 3 silver rectangle pieces that are 1 inch by 1/2 inch is what I cut them at. And then we're just gonna go behind this in between each one of these. Now in hindsight, it is a lot easier to, it should have been better to glue these on first before doing the paracord along the edges. Because that way it would have kept the pieces consistent and it just would have been a whole lot easier. But just gonna flip it over, put a drop of super glue on each side, and then line it up to the middle. We'll do that right there. Do it on the number 3. And then for the top one, actually goes in between the top ab here. And so it's kind of a tricky deal. You just don't want to line it up, put your fingers pretty much where it is, and then flip it. And just kind of mark it right there. So that way you've got a basic idea of where this one goes. Keep it even. And there you have the ab piece, all nice. It's still flexible, which is great. There's that, and now we're going to attach these pieces, which again are not included in the templates. And I know I said at the beginning that I left an area here at the top for glue. Well, since I did the outward angle cut, made these pieces quite a bit bigger, and there's not quite enough to glue. So I just traced out a piece of scrap 2mm foam, and I'm trying to glue this onto the back. And I also did the same thing for the rib piece, because this piece actually butts right up against this, and it's better to glue it along the back, so it has a lot more surface area to glue onto. Right here you can tell I have the 2mm pieces glued into place. If you happen to have black 2mm, it would probably work better, just so that way you don't have to worry about the edges showing. But as for the rib piece, that super glue on there, and then it goes right up against it. And you'll just apply it, and basically this little line right here continues on with that piece. Now there should be a fairly decent size gap right here, which is why I have this entire piece as one with the secondary piece glued on top, just so that way it gives it a little more dimension. Just like that. And we'll do the other side, then we'll attach the top. Here's where it's going to get a little bit difficult because it's really awkward to do. But I am just going to place some glue here along the top. Go ahead and go all the way to where this elastic is. I'm going to line it up best I can in the center, trying to keep it straight. Another option that you could do is if you had a mannequin that you could lay down, that might help with this. But I'm trying to really push in the area where I placed the super glue. Something like that. I'm gonna flip it over and lift up the areas where I haven't glued yet and start gluing those. Well, all right guys, that is how you build the torso piece to this. There are shoulder straps included in the templates, which they will go right here off the edge and come back. And then of course to strap it, all you have to do is just get I'm gonna use a 1-inch nylon strap and buckle, parachute buckle, to connect on each side and have it buckle on the back so I can cinch it tight and have it fit. Yeah, that is it for this one. All right guys, I hope you guys learned something from this video. The templates will be available in my Etsy shop, and I'll have that linked down below. And I know I didn't show the shoulder straps in this, but I will go over that real quick. Now this neck piece is my neoprene neck piece, but you guys can also purchase neck templates in my shop as well. But this is the shoulder strap. I use 2mm foam right here, and then the same red paracord. Just super glued the side. I just super glued it right here, right behind. And to get the upper chest piece to actually stay, I'm going to be adding Velcro right here, and then the corresponding piece onto the neck piece. So that way it'll Velcro right here, and that keeps the armor up and keeps it in place. And then as far as the straps, I know I've explained it earlier, but it's just 1-inch nylon glued right there and an adjustable buckle on each side. And that's it. And then you've got full mobility right here. You can actually even sit down in this armor. But yeah, that's it for the video. Stay tuned for the next one.